Hey guys, welcome back. I just want to say this before the video starts. I do want to point out that I was waiting for mods to come out for the PS4 to do this video. They've been delayed quite a while, so I did want to get this video out and give you my theory and thoughts on the NCR coming to Boston, by the way. I also want to point out that unfortunately, due to I'm stuck to a PS4 at the moment, I will not be able to show you any imagery and stuff like that, but I will be very detailed in information on this one right now. Alongside my Enclave one, I'm also stuck with a PS4 version as well, so forgive me guys. There will be gameplay footage in the background, but it won't be about the NCR and stuff like that. I will be talking about that, so apologies about that in advance. And I hope you still enjoyed the video and my idea how the NCR would or possibly make it to Boston. See you guys, have a good one. Hi guys, welcome back, and this is the part of the Fallout Faction series that I did a while back. Apologies for not getting the video out right now. Mods have been delayed. I really wanted to do up this video, all mods and the NCR Ranger armor and uniforms and whatnot and flags, but unfortunately I won't be able to, but I will be going in complete and utter detail about my idea. So we're roughly going to go through the military of the new Californian Republic Army, which is all the way in California, as we all know. The NCR's military is mostly comprised of 7 divisions, including marksmen, scouts, mechanized units, and a small number of vertibirds. In addition to their major cities are protected and patrolled by heavily armed police officers, which is also a good thing as well. One of their special forces units consists of the new California Rangers, a select group that is pledged to protect the people of the Waste, much like the Texas Rangers of old. The Rangers are said to have numerous safe houses throughout the wastes. They use these to strike at slavers outside of NCR territory, usually in the north. And as expected, the two groups hate each other with a passion. NCR was also in the habit of establishing marshals in a major population center in their territories, responsible for enforcing the laws of the NCR throughout the Republic. Ghouls, super mutants, and humans were all known to serve in the NCR armed forces. The NCR gained access to a limited number of vertibirds, by the way, so I'm going to be going into detail about that in a second. From their battles with the Enclave over Navarro, along with the Brotherhood of Steel. Although the diverse NCR military is mostly comprised of their regular troopers, who are characterized by their tan uniforms, the wide-brimmed helmet, the goggles, armed with the standard service rifle, which I miss quite wholeheartedly now in Fallout 4, by the way. These soldiers are usually, associated with the NCR and communist scene in both pro and anti-NCR propaganda, which is the unfortunate part for most troopers who are just trying to make a difference. But overall, with the NCR, given that they have like a really big army, they have a big army, mainly foot soldiers. They do have some mechanized units, i.e., like I think they have a few power armor units, a few verter units and stuff like that. But I'm not too sure how diverse their mechanized infantry is. I can imagine they might have a few pre-war vehicles up and running, but I don't imagine they have a lot of it. So getting all the way to the Commonwealth, Boston Commonwealth, shall we? Let's say we start off in California, and given that their current state is unknown with Caesar's Legion, they could still be fighting that war. If they've won the war or have lost it by now, we don't know right now. Unfortunately, I don't think we learned about the NCR too much in Fallout 4, which is unfortunate. I did kind of want to know what happened to them, but anyway. Going through that, like Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and I believe New Mexico is pretty much Kaiser territory right there, which has hundreds of thousands of troops, Caesar's Legion, which Caesar's Legion does have a lot of troopers, I will admit that. He doesn't have as many, I think they're on par with each other, NCR and Caesar's Legion. But given that the NCR does have a bit of an advantage of using ballistic weapons over melee weapons and swords and fighting barehanded that not that much, they do have that unique winning there where they can take on an old world civilization and probably win. But Caesar's Legion's troopers are, let me rephrase that, Caesar's Legion's legionnaires are so well trained, they are so physically fit, they are terrifying to an average trooper. Now, let's go to the idea of like how the troopers are now. Most troopers are new people born into this, like into the NCR states, where they've lived in civilization now instead of living in the wastes like most of the tribals in Caesar's Legion, which know everything about survival. They're beaten down, broken, built up again to be these hardened, disciplined zealots of soldiers. And what the NCR trooper can have like like a very in democracy, like in the democracy, NCR troopers are well trained. They're intelligent, but they're more civilized than Caesar's Legion if you think about it. They go from a pre-war standard. They have lived lives now that's pretty good, and so on and so forth, and including their NCR Rangers who are picked from the best of the best. Where I can only imagine being a member of a special forces in the NCR, you would learn everything about survival, which is the most important thing. I can imagine most NCR troopers do have minor survival skills, but not too many, depending on where they're from in California or around the areas that the NCR control. I can imagine they can be great help and stuff like that. But given that they only have 7 divisions and a few vertibirds, I will say this: I can imagine flying to the flying to Massachusetts is completely out of order, given that the vertibirds are made for short range reconnaissance and troop transport and even attack runs, not long range. Meaning that they would have to build. I can imagine if they did go by air, they'd have to build a supply depot with fuel and scavenge fuel or make biodiesel or whatever the hell a vertibird takes to fly, and in a different state, like literally hundreds of bases or a couple of hundred bases in each state, just to keep vertibirds going and a supply line reaching all the way over to Massachusetts, which it will be extensively expensive on the NCR. Given that they would expand that way, there is a lot of tech and technology, but there are a lot of factions in between there. Let's exclude like the basic Wastelander or a tribal or whatnot. We do have the Brotherhood of Steel in Capital Wasteland. We have the Midwestern Brotherhood of Steel in Chicago. And then we have, I believe, we have more Caesar's Legion there. And then we have the Northern Enclave as well. And then what's left of them, I believe, anyway. And so on and so forth. Which would make things very hard. They could do different routes. I can imagine if they couldn't go straight through like Utah, Arizona, Colorado, and New Mexico, all the way to Kansas, Missouri, Kentucky, West Virginia, New Jersey, through Connecticut, and then to Massachusetts, they could possibly make it that way, but that means doing things on foot, or they have somewhat of a secret vehicle supply of long-range vehicles like tanks, cars, APCs, whatever they have in their arsenal that we still haven't seen just yet. Would make it very interesting to see. But I can imagine, given that they have such a stress on supplies and troops, they wouldn't be able to afford something like that by air. It would cost too much. I can imagine they would try send some rangers that way. Rangers are well trained. And on foot, I can imagine, I can really imagine those rangers would take quite a few years to reach there. And I can imagine being in different states and meeting different wastelanders and people, they'll probably end up in a different state and just stay there. Like settling down with a family or just staying there because their mission is taking too long or they're not happy about it. But overall with that, with the NCR trying to get there, their best bet is somewhat of vehicle, ground vehicle. If they do have ground vehicles, not as much I can imagine. But vertibirds is still not completely out of the way. They could make refueling stations or find refueling stations. They do have access to a lot of enclave information, which could tell them of all the locations of like little FOBs or outposts or fueling areas in like all going all the way over to the capital wasteland, which would be pretty handy for them to get their hands on, but they're not. I'm not too sure about that. But overall, if I had to say anything, they do have units in Texas and whatnot, and in Mexico and New Mexico. And we also, I want to point out, we wouldn't like Alaska. I believe is owned by the Brother. Like I don't know what's happening in Alaska. I heard rumors the Brother of Steel are there. I'm not believing that too much, so let's leave it at that, shall we? But what else could we have? Like ground forces, maybe if they could send a brigade or a large regiment to Capital Waste on foot, I can imagine them losing quite a significant amount of their forces due to combat casualties or illness or general tiredness. Like they will have to constantly scavenge food and set up supply lines themselves to have contact with the capital or wherever the hell they're trained in California to actually move out and join up with the rest of the forces. I can imagine the NCR Rangers doing it better than the normal trooper anyway. As I said, they could get sick of their mission and just like go on without anything and blah 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 blah. Anyway, but overall, if I had to say, hypothetically, and hypothetically, if the NCR could make it to Boston, I can imagine them not being around for very long. Boston has some unique enemies as well. They have the Gunners, they have the different kind of raiders, we have the Institute, the Brotherhood of Steel, the Commonwealth Minutemen. And if they ever came to, and of course in the next DLC we have Nuka World, which we'll have access to a Raider sorry, not armor, army, which will be bigger problems for this regiment or brigade or unit of NCR troopers trying to set up in the Commonwealth will probably get decimated by this. Like, given what we have the Minutemen who have their ground forces now, depending if you go on that route, and artillery, they pretty much have no defense against that. They could put out a good fight against ground combat versus ground combat, but with artillery and whatnot, I don't imagine the NCR lasting very long. Given that the Brotherhood of Steel are not too many in the Boston wasteland at the moment, well, the Commonwealth, whatever, they have air superiority, which is their most impressive tool. And given that they don't need many troops on the ground, they could fly in as many troops as they need and keep bombarding or attacking or air assaulting the NCR positions until they're completely and utterly wiped out, or they just get so demoralized that they don't want to fight anymore. We also have the Institute now. Well, the Institute have constant means of spying, sending in sleeper agents, teleportation, and all that crazy stuff that the NCR would probably love to get their hands on. Would never stand a chance against them, to be honest. Like, the Minutemen held out somehow. I don't know how. It's all because of you. But I can imagine it'll totally change if you were helping the Minutemen, then helping the Minutemen, no, not the Minutemen, sorry. If you were helping the NCR, then the Minutemen or the Brotherhood of Steel or even the Institute, you know, or the Raider Army. You could probably build up a Minutemen army. I keep saying Minutemen. I'm a big Minuteman fan, you know, all know that. But I can imagine the NCR would take in conscripts and try to set up a small provisional outpost or an embassy in the Commonwealth to help build up troops, supplies, weapons, all that kind of stuff. I can imagine if they could get a flight in. I actually want to show another hypothetical. Like, in New Vegas, we have the boomers, which they have access to a bomber. I can't remember what make, but I think it's a B-52 bomber. And they could possibly fly that sucker out. Like, it has long range capability. I can imagine it can make it to Massachusetts and somewhat make it back, depending if they bring their own fuel, equipment, and troops on board, like a little reconnaissance unit, and do back and forth flights each week or something like that. I don't know what the range of a B-52 bomber is, but I would like to know myself. If you guys know what a range of a B-52 bomber is to, like, let's say from Nevada all the way to Massachusetts, give us a shout in the comment section. But yeah, overall, in my theory of it, I can imagine if they have some sort of like long range air or ground vehicle, or even access to old train tunnels that could make make it easier for themselves, or rebuild a train going all the way over to Massachusetts. That is the only reason I can imagine the NCR coming to Boston Commonwealth, the Boston, Massachusetts, which would be the only reason why. Overall, in my own opinion, I don't think they'll even make it out of like Colorado or Wyoming or Montana, or even to Oklahoma at this point. I can imagine Rangers getting pretty close, but I can imagine they'd be killed off very soon. The regular trooper, no. The vertebrates, not too much. They need to find supply routes and refueling stations just to keep up with their demand for fuel and whatnot. So yeah, that's pretty much my idea and on the theory of that. In my overall opinion, if I had to say if they were going to make it, I can imagine them make a deal with the boomers. Like, the boomers have some great tech on their hands in Nevada. They have a long-range bomber. They could possibly fix up older planes as well if they were given the parts. They're all basically Air Force trained at this point. Apologies. Air Force trained at this moment with maintenance, flying, and everything. So they could possibly get old wrecks of different kind of planes and aircraft, build them up to working order, and fly those suckers out to Massachusetts if they wanted to. But that's my theory. It's a hypothetical theory, of course, but overall, with my like just logic and reason, I don't even think they would make it all the way to Illinois, to be honest. So guys, I know if you wanted to see the NCR again, but don't hate me too much, but I don't think they'll actually make it to Boston. But anyway, that's my idea, that's my theory on it. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it, as always, and I'll see you next time on RTC. See you guys, have a good one.